The desert wind carried red dust across the mining colony, painting everything the color of rust. Wiped his goggles and checked his scanner one more time. The readings were strange. Something metallic, something big, had crashed about 2 kilometers west of the main facility. He should have reported it. That was protocol, but had learned during his years as a combat medic that sometimes protocol got people killed. Sometimes you had to see things with your own eyes first. The crash site came into view as he climbed over a rocky ridge. His breath caught. The ship was massive, sleek, and completely unlike anything humans built. Parts of it were still smoking. Debris scattered across the sand like fallen stars. Approached carefully. His hand moved to the emergency beacon on his belt but didn't press it. Not yet. That's when he saw them. 3 figures lay near the wreckage. They were tall, easily 7 feet, with armor that seemed to shimmer even while damaged. Their skin had a slight blue tint, and their features were sharp, almost predatory. But what struck most was the blood. Dark purple blood pooled beneath them. They were dying. One of them moved. Her eyes snapped open, pure silver with vertical pupils. She saw, and her hand went to her weapon instantly. The movement made her gasp in pain, but the weapon stayed pointed at his chest. "Stay back, human," she said. Her voice was rough, each word forced out. "We don't need your kind." Raised his hand slowly. "You're bleeding out. Internal injuries from the crash. You have maybe 6 hours, probably less." The alien's eyes narrowed. "How would you know?" "I was a combat medic. Saw these injuries 100 times during the war." Kept his voice calm, professional. "Your armor's cracked near the ribs. You're breathing shallow on the left side. Punctured lung, maybe 2. Your friend there," he nodded to the unconscious one, "has blood coming from her mouth, internal bleeding, and the third one is in shock." The alien with the weapon was the eldest, could tell by the scars on her face, and the way the others positioned themselves near her even while unconscious. She studied him with those strange silver eyes. She said finally, "These are my sisters and engineer this mining colony." He took a small step forward. "Let me help." "No." The voice came from the one he'd thought was unconscious. Pushed herself up on one elbow, her face twisted in pain and anger. "We don't accept help from primitives. We're warriors. We die with honor, not saved by lesser species." Didn't flinch at the insult. He'd heard worse. "Honor won't stop you from bleeding to death, but if dying in the sand is what you want, I'll respect that. Just thought you might want to survive long enough to complete whatever mission crashed you here." His expression shifted slightly. "You assume we're on a mission." "Your ship was running hard when it crashed. I can see the burn marks on the hull. Someone was chasing you. And you didn't land here by accident, you were trying to escape." Shrugged. "Military background. You learned to read situations." The third sister stirred. She was younger than the others, her armor less decorated with battle scars. "He's observant," she said quietly, "and he didn't run when he saw us." "Why would I run?" asked. "Most species fear warriors," said. "We're trained from birth to fight. We're genetically enhanced. We've conquered 17 star systems." "That's impressive," said honestly. "But right now, you're 3 people who need medical attention. Everything else is just details." Coughed and purple blood flecked her lips. She looked at her sisters, then back at, "What would you need?" "First, I need to stabilize you. That means stopping the internal bleeding." Moved closer slowly. "Your physiology is different from human, but blood is blood. Pressure, circulation, oxygenation, the basics are the same." Tried to stand but collapsed. "Our medical systems are destroyed. Our technology is generations beyond yours. If our equipment can't save us, your primitive tools certainly can't." "Maybe," admitted, "but I won't know unless I try, and you won't survive unless you let me." Made a decision. Stand down, let him work. When started to protest, his voice turned sharp. "That's an order, sister. I won't let us die because of pride." Opened his field kit. It wasn't much, designed for human injuries on a mining colony, but he'd learned to improvise during the war. He'd saved soldiers using equipment meant for repairing drilling equipment. He could do this. He started with, her injuries were the most severe. The armor had fragments driven into her chest cavity, worked quickly using a portable scanner to map the damage. The image made him wince. 3 broken ribs, punctured lung, liver damage, and internal bleeding. "I can't fix this here," he said, "but I can keep you alive long enough to get you to my facility." Hal asked. She was watching him closely, her silver eyes tracking every movement. "Your armor has a power cell, right? Emergency systems." When nodded, continued. "I can rig a blood filtration system. Use the power cell to run it. It'll clean your blood, keep you oxygenated, buy us time." "That's impossible," said. "The systems aren't compatible." "Everything's compatible if you know what you're doing," said. He was already pulling cables from his kit, connecting his diagnostic scanner to his armor. Power is power. Blood is blood. The trick is finding the right connection. He worked for 2 hours. His hands moved steadily, connecting human technology to alien systems in ways that shouldn't work but did. He used mining equipment to create a makeshift pump. He diagnostic software to monitor vital signs. He built a bridge between 2 technologies that had never met before. His breathing steadied. The purple blood stopped flowing, her eyes focused with less pain. "It's working," breathed. "How did you?" "Improvisation," said simply. "Humans are good at making do with what we have. We adapt." Stared at the equipment keeping her sister alive. It looked primitive, cobbled together, nothing like the elegant technology she knew. But it worked. "You saved her," said quietly. "With scrap metal and human tools, you saved a warrior." Was already moving to treat injuries. "Like I said, blood is blood, now hold still. You've got a concussion and your left arm is broken. Let's get you patched up." As the desert sun set, finished stabilizing all 3 sisters. They would live. The impossible had happened, not through advanced technology or superior genetics, but through simple human determination and creativity. Looked at the human who had saved them. "Why?" she asked. "Why help us when we called you primitive, when we insulted your species?" Packed his equipment. "Because you needed help and I could give it. That's enough reason for me." In that moment, the 3 warriors began to understand something they'd never considered before. Maybe humanity's supposed weakness was actually their greatest strength. The medical bay at the mining colony was small, designed for treating broken bones and minor burns. Now it held 3 alien warriors who filled the space with their presence even while lying in recovery beds. Checked the monitors he'd rigged up. The makeshift blood filtration systems were holding. His lung was healing. His concussion was improving. His broken arm was set and stabilized. They would survive. "You should rest," he told them. "Your bodies need time to heal." "We don't have time," said. She tried to sit up and winced. "We need to contact our empire. The information we carry is critical." Pulled up a chair. "What information?" The 3 sisters exchanged glances. Finally spoke. "We were transporting intelligence about a coup. A group called the Ash Blades plans to kill our empress and take control of our empire." "And you have proof?" asked. "The proof is encrypted in my genetic code," said. "It's a security method. The data is written into my DNA, protected by biolocks. Only authorized personnel can extract and decode it." Added, but the crash damaged her biosignature implant, the one that would allow safe extraction. Without it, trying to access the data could kill her. "And if we don't extract it," said, her voice hard, "the encryption will degrade. We have 7 days before the information is lost forever." "Process this. How far is the nearest outpost?" 3 weeks' travel, even with faster-than-light engines," said. "Our ship is destroyed. Your colony's communications can't reach space. We're stranded." "So you need to extract the data here," said slowly. and you need to do it in 7 days. Impossible, snapped. You don't have the technology, even we can't do it without proper equipment. Stood and walked to the window. Outside, mining equipment moved across the red landscape. Maybe, but let me think about it. Think about what? Demanded. Your species barely has space travel. You're centuries behind us in biotechnology. There's nothing to think about. Said sharply. He saved our lives with mining equipment and human medical supplies. Don't assume he can't help now. Turn back to them. Explain the encryption to me in simple terms. Sat up carefully. The data is stored at the quantum level in specific gene sequences. It requires a bioscanner with quantum precision to read it without destroying the information. The scanner must be calibrated to its exact genetic signature, which the implant provided. Without the implant, we'd need to manually calibrate, which takes specialized equipment we don't have. So it's not the reading that's hard, said. It's the calibration. The precision required is beyond your technology, said. Smiled slightly. Precision isn't always about technology. Sometimes it's about understanding the principles. He looked at. Your people, you're genetically designed for specific roles, right? Warriors, engineers, diplomats. Yes, said. Each is optimized from birth for their function. So your education focuses on perfecting that one function, continued. You learn to be the best warrior possible, but you don't learn engineering or medicine unless it relates to combat. That's correct, said. Why does this matter? Because humans are different, said. We're generalists. I studied engineering, served as a combat medic, learned mining techniques, taught myself alien languages just because I was curious. I know a little bit about a lot of things. Being mediocre at everything doesn't help us, said. No, agreed. But seeing connections between different fields does. You see the encryption as a genetic problem. I see it as a data storage problem. And I've worked with data storage my entire career. He walked to a terminal and pulled up schematics. The mining colony has medical scanners for checking worker health. Basic but functional. We have your crashed ship, which contains fragments of technology. And I have engineering equipment that can be repurposed. You want to build a bioscanner, said slowly, from scrap. Not from scrap, corrected. From components that were designed for other purposes but can be adapted. Human technology might be primitive by your standards, but it's also incredibly flexible. Leaned forward, interested despite her injuries. How would you calibrate it to its genetic signature without the implant? We use her sisters, said. You share genetic material, right? Family similarities. We're sisters, said. Of course we share genes. Then we scan all 3 of you, map the differences, and use that to build a baseline for its unique signature. It won't be perfect, but it might be close enough. The room fell silent. The 3 warriors stared at the human, who was proposing to solve their impossible problem with primitive equipment and creative thinking. This could work, said quietly. The logic is sound. The logic is insane, countered. We're talking about quantum-level precision. One mistake and the data is destroyed, or worse, dies. Then we don't make mistakes, said simply. We work carefully, we test everything, we adapt as we go. Looked at her sisters, then at, you understand the risk. If you're wrong, we fail our mission and our empire falls into civil war. I understand, said, but if we don't try, you definitely fail. So the choice is between possible failure and certain failure. I know which one I prefer. Why do this? Asked. This isn't your empire, this isn't your war. You could just let us fail and avoid the risk. Met her silver eyes. Because you asked for help, because I can try, and because if your empire falls into civil war, a lot of innocent people die. That matters to me. Shook her head in disbelief. You would risk everything for people you don't know, for an empire that considers your species insignificant. Yes, said. That's what humans do. We help because it's right, not because it benefits us. The concept was foreign to the warriors. Their society valued strength, honor, and loyalty to the empire. Helping outsiders was seen as weakness. But here was this human, offering everything with no expectation of reward. "How do we start?" asked. "First, I need to salvage components from your ship," said. "You'll come with me. You know the technology. Together, we can identify what's useful." Then asked. "Then we build, we test, we adapt, and we hope it's enough." Over the next 3 days they worked, and picked through the wreckage, finding intact circuits and processors, explained human engineering principles, shared technological knowledge. They learned from each other. Directed the project from her medical bed, her tactical mind organizing resources and planning contingencies. Once she accepted that might actually succeed, contributed her knowledge of biology. The bioscanner took shape. It looked nothing like technology, all clean lines and elegant design. Instead, it was a hybrid monster of human practicality and alien sophistication. Cables connected mining computers to processors. Medical scanners interfaced with quantum sensors salvaged from the ship. On the 4th day, they ran the first test. They scanned first, mapping her genetic code at quantum resolution. The machine hummed and clicked, processing data in ways it was never designed to do. It worked. They scanned next, comparing her genetic signature to, finding the family similarities and the individual differences. The data aligned perfectly. "It's working," breathed. "You actually built a quantum bioscanner from mining equipment." "We built it," corrected. "This was teamwork." Now came the real test. Scanning and extracting the encrypted intelligence. One mistake would destroy everything. But as prepared the scanner, an alarm blared through the colony. The sensor grid had detected a ship entering orbit. Checked the signature and her face went pale. "Ash Blades, they found us." The Ash Blade ship descended like a predator, its dark hull blocking out the sun. Watched from the colony's observation deck as it landed 2 kilometers from the main facility, far enough to avoid immediate detection of their exact position, close enough to launch an assault within minutes. "How many?" asked. She was on her feet now, still injured but functional. The warrior in her couldn't stay in bed when enemies approached. Checked the scanner readings. 20 soldiers, standard assault configuration. They'll send scouts first, then the main force once they locate us. "We can't fight them directly," said. "We're still injured and outnumbered 4-1. "We don't fight them directly," said. He was pulling up maps of the mining colony on his terminal. "We fight them smart." Turned on him. "This isn't your battle, human. You should evacuate the colony. We'll handle this." "Handle it how?" asked. "You're injured, outnumbered, and traditional tactics won't work here." "So we die with honor," said simply. "That's what warriors do." "No," said firmly. "We survive and complete our mission. That's what smart warriors do." She looked at. "You have a plan." "I have the beginnings of one," said. "This is a mining colony. We have explosives, heavy equipment, terrain advantages. We know this ground. They don't." "Ambush tactics," said, understanding. "But warriors don't hide in ambush. That's considered cowardly." "Then it's a good thing I'm human," said. "I don't care about honor. I care about surviving." Before anyone could respond, the colony's communication system activated. A face appeared on the screen. Female, with scars that marked her as a veteran warrior. Her silver eyes were cold. The woman said, "I know you're there. I'm commander of the Ash Blades. We fought together once. I respected you then. I still do." Stepped forward. "You were one of the Empire's finest warriors. Why betray everything we fought for?" "I haven't betrayed anything," said. "The Empire has betrayed itself. We've grown weak through peace. We negotiate with lesser species. We compromise our strength. The Ash Blades will restore what we've lost." "By murdering our Empress?" asked. "By removing weakness from the throne," corrected. "Join us, you and your sisters. We need warriors like you. Together, we can make the Empire strong again." "Strong through tyranny," said. "Through fear and conquest, that's not strength, that's just violence." His expression hardened. "Then you choose death. Surrender the intelligence data and we'll make it quick. Refuse and we'll take it from your corpse." The transmission ended. 20 minutes, said, checking her weapons. "That's how long before they reach us. We need to prepare defensive positions." "No," said. "Defensive positions are what they expect. We need to do what they don't expect." He laid out the colony map. "The main facility is here. Between us and their landing site are 3 mine shafts, 2 processing buildings, and a power station. We turn all of that into weapons." "Explain," said. Pointed to the mine shafts. "We rig explosive charges in the support columns. When their scouts pass through, we collapse the tunnels. That splits their force." "They'll expect traps," said. "Sure," agreed. "But not everywhere. We make some traps obvious so they waste time disarming them. Meanwhile, the real traps are hidden in places they won't look." "The processing buildings?" asked. "We hack the automated systems," said. "Mining drones, cargo haulers, industrial equipment. We turn them into remote-controlled obstacles. Force the ash blades to fight in close quarters where their superior numbers matter less." Was shaking her head. "This is dishonorable. We should face them in open combat." "And die," said bluntly. "Your honor won't stop a bullet, but smart tactics might." "He's right," said. She looked at her sister. "I know this isn't how we were trained, but our training assumed equal numbers and full health. We have neither. We adapt or we fail." His jaw clenched, but she nodded. They had 15 minutes to prepare. Move through the colony like he owned it, because in a sense he did. He knew every tunnel, every building, every piece of equipment. He placed explosive charges with precision, rigged mining drones with improvised weapons, hacked control systems to respond to his commands. The sisters followed his lead, learned quickly, adapting her knowledge of technology to human systems, coordinated their positions, using her tactical mind to anticipate enemy movements. Even, reluctant at first, found herself appreciating the creative chaos of his plan. The Ash Blade scouts entered the colony perimeter, 6 warriors moving in standard formation, confident, expecting minimal resistance. Waited until they reached the first mine shaft. Then he triggered the charges. The explosion was controlled, surgical. Support columns crumbled and the tunnel collapsed behind the scouts, separating them from their main force. Dust filled the air. The scouts reacted instantly, taking cover and scanning for threats. They were professionals, but they were looking for enemies in front of them, not beneath their feet. Activated the mining drones. Heavy machines designed to break rock suddenly lurched forward, crashing into the scouts' positions. Not particularly accurate, but devastating in their sheer mass. 2 scouts went down immediately crushed. The others scattered. That's when struck. She moved like lightning despite her injuries, coming from an angle the scouts hadn't anticipated. Her weapon fired precisely, taking down a 3rd scout before they could react. Came from the opposite direction, close combat, brutal efficiency. A 4th scout fell. The remaining 2 scouts tried to regroup, but had hacked their communication system. Their calls for backup went into static. They were alone, confused, and already half defeated. Didn't give them time to recover. He triggered another explosion, this one in the processing building beside them. The structure didn't collapse, but debris rained down, forcing the scouts into the open. And finished them. 6 scouts eliminated in under 3 minutes, 0 casualties on their side. "That's not how battles are supposed to work," said, breathing hard, but there was something in her voice. Excitement. She'd enjoyed the creative chaos of it. "No," agreed, "it's better." But the main force was already adapting. Was no fool. She'd seen what happened to her scouts. Now she split her remaining 14 warriors into 3 groups, approaching from different angles. "They're learning," said. "Then we teach them more," replied. The battle continued through the colony, led them through passages and buildings he knew by heart. They set ambushes, collapsed structures, used the environment as a weapon. Every fight was on their terms in places they chose. The Ash Blades fought with honor and skill, but honor meant predictable tactics. Skill meant training that assumed conventional warfare. Fought with imagination. He turned cargo haulers into battering rams. He electrified walkways using the power grid. He created false trails using the colony's internal sensors. The sisters learned as they fought, started anticipating creative tactics, adding her own variations, used her technical knowledge to enhance his traps, and the most resistant at first became the most enthusiastic. When tried to flank them through the western tunnels, was waiting with a mining laser she'd repurposed into a weapon. When Ash Blade warriors tried to breach the medical facility, had rigged the doors to seal and flood with harmless but blinding gas from the fire suppression system. 8 hours of running combat. The Ash Blades lost 7 more warriors. His group remained intact. But exhaustion was setting in. His injuries were bleeding again, could barely stand. Even the strongest of them was slowing down. Called for another parley. Her face on the screen showed respect mixed with fury. "You're fighting like cowards," she said, "using tricks and traps instead of facing us honorably." "We're fighting to win," replied. "There's no honor in dying for no reason." "And your human helper?" asked. "You're relying on a primitive species to save you. This proves you're weak. When the Empire learns that warrior sisters needed human help, they'll strip your rank." "Maybe," said, "but we'll be alive to face that judgment, will you?" His expression hardened. "We have 7 warriors left. You have 1 human and 3 injured warriors. We're ending this now. Final assault. No more games." The transmission cut. Looked at the exhausted sisters. "One more fight, can you do it?" "Do we have a choice?" asked. "Yes," said. "We can run, evacuate and hide, let them search." "No," said firmly. "We end this here together." Nodded. "He taught us to fight differently. Now we teach them why that matters." The final battle came at dawn. 7 Ash Blade warriors against 4 defenders who refused to quit. But this time, the defenders weren't just fighting to survive. They were fighting to prove something. That strength came in many forms. That adaptation beat tradition. That a human and 3 aliens could achieve what seemed impossible. They won. The Ash Blade warriors lay defeated, but victory tasted bitter. Had escaped in her ship, wounded but alive. She would report back to her commanders. She would tell them that warrior sisters were being helped by a human. The political fallout would be devastating. But more immediately, time was running out. 4 days left, said, checking the bioscanner readings. The encryption in its genetic code is degrading faster than expected. All the stress from combat accelerated the breakdown. Studied the data. They'd successfully built the scanner. They'd survived the Ash Blade assault. But now they faced an impossible problem. Even if they extracted the intelligence data, they had no way to transmit it to the Empire. Your ship is destroyed, said. Our communications can't reach space. Even if we extracted the data, it would be useless if we can't deliver it. Leaned against the wall, exhausted from the battle. Then we failed. All of this was for nothing. No, said firmly. We haven't failed yet. We've just run into another problem, and problems have solutions. What solution? Asked. We need faster-than-light communication. Your colony doesn't have that technology. Walked to the window, looking out at the mining equipment scattered across the landscape. His mind raced through possibilities, discarding and rebuilding ideas. Engineers were problem solvers. That's what they did. The industrial fabricator, he said suddenly. The colony uses it to manufacture replacement parts. It works at the molecular level, building components atom by atom. So asked. So it's a quantum device, said. It manipulates matter at the quantum level, and quantum mechanics allows for instant communication across any distance. Sat up straight. Quantum entanglement. You want to convert a fabricator into a quantum transmitter. Can that work? Asked. Theoretically, said slowly, but the power requirements would be enormous, and the calibration would need to be perfect. One error and the transmission fails, or worse, the power surge destroys the entire colony. How big of a surge? Asked. Ran calculations on her portable computer. Her face went pale. The entire colony's power grid wouldn't be enough. We'd need to redirect power from the mining sector's fusion reactor, and even then, there's a 70% chance of catastrophic failure. What kind of catastrophic? Pressed. The kind where everything within 500 meters of the transmitter is vaporized, said quietly. The room fell silent. Broke it, so we're choosing between certain failure if we do nothing, or probable death if we try. Yes, said. Looked at him. This is your colony, your people. We can't ask you to risk them. You're not asking, said. I'm offering, but we need to be smart about it. We need to minimize casualties if this goes wrong. Over the next 12 hours, they planned, worked with the colony administrator to evacuate everyone from the mining sector. He told her only what she needed to know. There would be a dangerous experiment, and people needed to be clear of the area. Was not happy. You're risking everything, she said, confronting in the control room. For aliens who view us as primitives, for a war that isn't ours, these are human lives you're gambling with. I know, said. That's it, demanded. You know, 3,000 people work in this colony. They trust us to keep them safe, and you're about to potentially kill them for alien politics. I'm trying to save billions of lives, said. If the empire falls into civil war, the entire sector becomes unstable. Trade routes collapse. Wars break out. Innocent people die, not just humans too. That's not our responsibility, said. Maybe not, agreed. But it's within our power to prevent. Doesn't that make it our responsibility? Stared at him. When did you become a philosopher? When I watched good people die because no one was willing to take risks to save them, said quietly. I won't make that mistake again. Sighed, if this goes wrong, if people die, I'm putting it in my report that I objected. Fair enough, said. And if it works, added, I'm putting in my report that you're insane but effective. They evacuated the mining sector. 3,000 people moved to safe zones, grumbling but obedient. Didn't tell them how bad the danger really was. No point in causing panic. The conversion work took 2 days, and worked together, rebuilding the industrial fabricator into something it was never meant to be. They pulled components from the crashed ship. They rewired power systems. They programmed quantum protocols that neither human nor technology alone could achieve. Coordinated the project like a military operation, organizing resources and managing timelines. Handled the physical labor, moving heavy equipment with her superior strength. And during the long hours of work, they talked. Why did you leave military service? Asked one night as they calibrated quantum sensors. Was quiet for a moment. I saved people just so they could go back to fighting and dying, over and over. After a while, I started wondering if I was helping or just prolonging suffering. But you're doing the same thing now, pointed out, saving us so we can continue fighting. No, said, I'm saving you so you can prevent a war. That's different. That's actually ending suffering, not prolonging it. Adjusted a connection, her movements precise. Do you regret leaving? Sometimes, admitted, but I couldn't save everyone. I had to accept that. Focus on the people I could help right here, right now. Like us, said. Like you, agreed. Later found him reviewing power calculations. You know the most dangerous part, don't you? She said. When we activate the transmitter, someone needs to monitor it constantly. Manual adjustments every few seconds. If it's unmanned even briefly, the whole system collapses. I know, said. And the monitoring station is at the center of the danger zone, continued. Whoever operates it can't evacuate in time if things go wrong. I know, repeated. You're planning to stay, aren't you? Said softly. You're planning to sacrifice yourself. Didn't answer immediately. Then, someone has to, and I'm the only one who understands both the human and systems well enough to make the adjustments. That's not fair, said. You've already done so much. Fairness has nothing to do with it, said. It's about what needs to be done. On the fourth day, everything was ready. The quantum transmitter sat in the center of the mining sector, a hybrid monster of human and technology. Power lines fed into it from the fusion reactor. Quantum sensors calibrated to communication frequencies. They had one shot, one chance to transmit the intelligence data to the Empress before the encryption degraded completely. Extracted the data from its genetic code using the bioscanner they'd built. The information downloaded into the transmitter's memory banks. Names, dates, locations. Everything needed to stop the Ash Blade coup. 2 hours until we can activate, said. The quantum field needs to stabilize first. Those 2 hours felt eternal. The sisters spent them in silence, each dealing with the weight of what was about to happen. Finally, it was time. Everyone to safe zones, ordered. Confirm all personnel are clear. Confirmed, his voice came over the radio. Mining sector is empty except for you four. Looked at the sisters. Get to safety. I'll handle the transmission. No, said. This isn't negotiable, said firmly. Someone has to stay and it's going to be me. Why you? Demanded. We're warriors. We're trained to sacrifice ourselves for our mission. Because I'm the only one who can make the adjustments needed, said. And because this is my choice. You don't get to take that from me. Had tears in her silver eyes. After everything you've done for us, we're just supposed to let you die. You're supposed to survive, said. You're supposed to complete your mission. You're supposed to show your empire that adapting and accepting help isn't weakness. That's why I'm doing this. He walked to the control station before they could argue further. His hands moved across the controls, initiating the activation sequence. Get out, he said, not looking at them. You have 5 minutes before the power surge begins. The sisters didn't move. Please, said, and his voice cracked slightly. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, just go. Made a decision. She grabbed her sisters and pulled them toward the exit. But as they ran, his mind raced. There had to be another way. There had to be. The transmitter hummed to life, building power. Hands moved constantly, adjusting frequencies and power flows. Alone in the control station, he watched the readings climb toward the critical threshold. He'd saved them, that was enough. Outside, as the building started to shake from the power surge, stopped running. She looked at the readings on her portable scanner and saw something. A possibility. My shield generator, she said suddenly. Ran back toward the control station. Behind her and screamed for her to stop, but she ignored them. Her mind calculated possibilities with the same tactical precision she used in battle. The shield generator built into her armor was designed to protect against energy weapons. It created a quantum field that dispersed incoming energy across multiple dimensions. If she could position herself as a grounding point for the excess power surge, if she could redirect the flow through her armor instead of letting it explode outward, maybe she could prevent the catastrophic failure. It would kill her. The energy would burn through her in seconds. But would live. She burst through the door of the control station, looked up, shocked. What are you doing? He shouted over the growing hum of the transmitter. You need to evacuate. So do you, said. She was already moving to the power junction, her fingers activating her shield generator. But someone needs to ground this energy surge, someone strong enough to take it. That's suicide, said. Yes, agreed. But I'm a warrior. This is what we do. We sacrifice for our mission. No, said flatly. He left the controls and grabbed her arm. You don't get to sacrifice yourself because I was willing to. That's not how this works. The building shook, lights flickered, the transmitter's hum became a roar. There's no time to argue, said. She pulled away and positioned herself at the power junction, her shield generator flaring to life. I won't let you die after everything you've done for us. Then I won't let you die either, said. He was looking at her shield readings, his engineer's mind already working. Your generator, it disperses energy across dimensions. Yes, but there's too much power. It'll burn through in seconds. Not if we redirect the flow, said. His hands flew across the controls. If we create a feedback loop through your armor, use the quantum field to bleed off energy gradually instead of all at once. That's impossible, said. No one has ever survived that kind of power surge. No has tried, corrected, but I'm human. I specialize in impossible solutions. Now adjust your shield harmonics to these frequencies. He rattled off numbers. This won't work. Trust me, he said, meeting her eyes. Like I trusted you, like we've trusted each other through all of this. One more impossible thing together. The power surge hit. Energy screamed through the control station. Shield generator blazed like a star as it absorbed the overflow. But modifications created a feedback loop, dispersing the energy through her armor in controlled bursts instead of one catastrophic explosion. It was still too much. The armor began to melt, screamed as heat seared through her. Hold on, shouted. He was at the controls, manually adjusting the power flow moment by moment, trying to keep the energy from overwhelming her completely. Just 30 more seconds. 29 seconds. His vision blurred. The pain was beyond anything she'd experienced. 20 seconds. Her armor was fusing to her body. 10 seconds. She could smell burning flesh. 5 seconds. Everything went white. Then silence. The transmitter powered down. The quantum field collapsed. The mission was complete. Stumbled through the smoke and debris. KAIVA. He found her collapsed near the power junction, her armor blackened and fused, smoke rising from her body. But her chest moved. Barely, but it moved. She was alive. And burst through the door, having his orders and run back when the building stopped shaking. They saw their sister and cried out. Help me, said. His training as a combat medic took over. We need to stabilize her, now. They worked together, these unlikely allies. Accessed emergency medical supplies from their ship. Used the techniques had taught them, the improvised solutions that had saved them once before. And coordinated everything, his hands steady despite his exhaustion. Hours later in the medical bay, opened her eyes. Every part of her hurt, but she was alive. They both were. Did it work? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. The transmission succeeded, said, holding her sister's hand. The intelligence reached the Empress. The coup was prevented. The ash blades are being arrested across the Empire. We won, added. Because of you, because you refused to let each other die. Looked at who sat nearby, bandaged and exhausted. You saved me. We saved each other, corrected. That's what partnerships do. News of the mission spread across the Empire like wildfire. 3 warrior sisters had survived impossible odds with the help of a human. The reaction was divided and intense. Conservative factions called it a disgrace. Warrior sisters relying on a primitive species proved they were weak and unworthy of their rank. Progressive factions saw it differently. If elite warriors needed human help to survive, perhaps the Empire's rigid beliefs about superiority needed to change. The Empress herself broke the deadlock. She sent a diplomatic ship to retrieve the sisters and invited to the. She wanted to hear their story directly. The journey took 3 weeks, spent it recovering and getting to know the sisters better, not as people in crisis but as individuals. Was more than a warrior. She loved poetry, ancient songs about honor and sacrifice. She'd never chosen this path, but she'd made peace with it, helped her see that making peace and making choices were not the same thing. Was discovering that strength came in many forms. She began studying human combat techniques, not to replace her training but to enhance it. She learned that adaptation was its own kind of strength. Had documented everything. Her report, titled The Human Variable, detailed how adaptability had saved them repeatedly. She argued that the Empire's rigid specialization made them vulnerable. They needed to learn flexibility or risk extinction. When they arrived at stood before the Imperial Council, thousands of watched, their silver eyes judging this human who dared to stand in their seat of power. The Empress herself sat on the throne, regal and ancient. "Of Earth," she said, her voice resonating through the chamber. "You saved my warriors when they should have died. You stopped a coup that would have destroyed our empire. Explain why." Took a breath. He'd prepared speeches, practiced arguments, but in the moment he simply told the truth. "Because they needed help and I could give it," he said. "Your empire sees weakness in accepting help from those you consider inferior, but I see weakness in refusing help out of pride. You have incredible technology, superior genetics, centuries of combat experience, but you lack one thing that humans have in abundance: the willingness to adapt." The council murmured, some in anger, some in thought. "Adaptation means admitting you don't have all the answers," continued. "It means learning from species you consider beneath you. It means changing when change is necessary. Your warriors are magnificent, your technology is advanced, your empire is powerful. But power without flexibility is brittle. It breaks under pressure." "And you believe humans can teach us this?" the Empress asked. "I believe we can learn from each other," said. "You can teach us discipline, advanced science, and strategic thinking. We can teach you improvisation, creative problem-solving, and the value of working together despite differences. Neither of us is better. We're just different. And those differences make us stronger together than apart." The chamber fell silent. The Empress studied with her ancient eyes. "You speak with wisdom uncommon in one so young," she said finally. "And your actions have proven your words. The Empire owes you a debt." "I don't want a debt," said. "I want a partnership." The Empress smiled slightly. "Then you shall have it. I decree the establishment of an exchange program between the Empire and humanity. Our people will learn from each other, and the three sisters who stand beside you will serve as the first ambassadors of this new alliance." The sisters looked at each other, shocked. It was a role that didn't exist in society, a path they'd never imagined. "What do you say?" the Empress asked them. Stepped forward. "We accept, not because we were ordered but because we choose it." "A warrior choosing her own path," the Empress said. "How very human of you. Perhaps that is not a bad thing." Months later stood in the rebuilt mining sector. The damage from the transmission had been repaired. The colony thrived, but everything had changed. Human engineers worked alongside technicians. Ideas flowed in both directions. The rigid barriers between species were beginning to crumble. Approached him. "You know, when you first told me you were risking everything for aliens, I thought you were insane." "And now?" asked. "I still think you're insane," said, "but you were right. Look at this." She gestured to the collaborative work happening around them. "We're not just surviving anymore, we're thriving, because someone was willing to take a risk." Saw and arriving for one of their regular visits. They moved between both worlds now, neither fully nor human but something new, bridges between species. Saw him and smiled. The warrior who had nearly died rather than accept help from a primitive species now worked daily with humans, teaching and learning in equal measure. "Do you regret it?" she asked when she reached him. "Everything that happened, the risks you took?" looked at the world they were building together. Different species, different cultures, different ways of thinking, all working towards something better than what they had alone. No regrets, he said. Sometimes survival isn't about being the strongest it's about knowing when to ask for help and knowing when to give it. Very wise, said, joining them, for a primitive human. I learned it from a proud alien warrior, replied with a grin, who learned that pride and wisdom sometimes point in different directions. Pulled out her data pad, still documenting everything. This is going in my next report. The continued collaboration between species as proof that diversity strengthens rather than weakens. More politics, groaned. More truth, corrected, which is the best politics of all. As the sun set over the mining colony, painting the red sand gold, reflected on everything that had happened. He'd set out to help 3 dying aliens and ended up changing the relationship between 2 species. He'd nearly died doing it, they all had. But they'd survived together. And in surviving, they'd proven that the future didn't belong to the strongest or the most advanced. It belonged to those willing to adapt, to learn, and to help each other despite their differences. The warrior sisters had relied on a single human not because he was superior, but because he was willing. Willing to help, willing to adapt, willing to believe that impossible problems could have possible solutions if you were creative enough to find them. And that, more than any technology or genetic enhancement, was what made humans special. Not that they were better, but that they tried. Always they tried. What now? Asked, looking at the horizon where human and ships docked side by side. Now, said, we build something neither of our species could have built alone. We prove that survival means evolution, and evolution means change, and change means working together. Together, repeated, testing the word. It still felt foreign to her tongue, but less so every day. I like that. So do I, said. And together, they walked into the future they'd fought so hard to create.